One. All right. I'm recording on. That would freak me the fuck out if you just suddenly fucking
boom.
collapse. And you've been like well this whole time. Yo, I would, and I have it on camera. What if I was live streaming it to YouTube?
Oh my god, people would be freaking out. They'd be like, "Oh my god."
They'd be like, "All right, now move the body and talk about Doctor Strange." Okay.
I need a pyramid and I need to throw him in a body of water.
On a scale of 1 to, I'm trying to see if that fan's a little loud. I mean, it's hot, so
For the
people
fans.
hopefully people don't mind the fan a little bit in the background. You know, the audio version won't have that in there because I'm good at my job. D, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely and 1 being I don't mind it. How bad do you want to be talking about Doctor Strange right now?
Oh, maybe like a 8. 8.
Okay.
Because Doctor Strange had a lot of like holy shit moments, but this Moon Knight episode, I can honestly say there was a lot of screaming and just joy and like, I can't believe, like, oh my god, this is amazing.
I definitely let out at least 1 what the fuck moments. Maybe even 2. I'll probably say there was twice that I was like, what the fuck? You know? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, there's like what the fuck?
You're like, what the fuck? And then like, what the
Fuck?
fuck?
Yeah, the period. And then there's the what the fuck? Like the elongated one. I think I let out 1 of each, maybe a little bit.
It's definitely hype.
Yeah, this episode was hype, man.
It wasn't 45 minutes. I kept saying 45 minutes. Like, what, 40?
Bro, I think it was like, all right, what does this say?
minutes?
This says 43 minutes and 55 seconds.
All right,
It
so
was like
yo,
not
less
even.
than 44.
And you got to count, how long is the credits?
Probably like a minute.
Yeah, definitely you can.
2 minutes?
Yeah, let's give 2 minutes. So you got a 40-minute episode to wrap up everything this
No,
week.
like a 38 because you got the last credits.
True.
You got the
True.
rolling credits.
We
So
forgot
we'll
about
say
that.
2 minutes on the front,
Math
2 minutes
is
on
not-
the back.
Okay, yeah.
So
Whatever that is.
It's a 40. Yeah. It's a 39-minute show.
At the end of the day, it was like they thought they were going to be able to wrap up this episode. You know, they were going to be able to wrap up everything in 1 episode. And that'll be one of my questions to ask you when we really get started. But
It was great. What was great about the show is I found out that I can hold my breath for 40 minutes. Because exactly what I was doing is the entire time I was like this.
oh, you were like on the edge of your seat.
Oh yeah, I was like, didn't want to miss anything because you're like, oh, this
Yeah,
is
because
40 minutes.
If you look at your phone once and up, it's like, oh, credits.
Oh, there you're like-
I missed Jake. Oh well, fuck. I guess I missed Jake. So
From State Farm.
yeah. I will go ahead and warn our listeners that we will probably talk a little bit about Doctor Strange at the end of this episode. No, what am I saying? I can just release that as a separate video. I don't even know why I'm warning you guys. Yeah, but if you're watching this, I will probably have a quick little Doctor Strange chat with Drew as a separate video, or maybe at the end.
Can we please just show this note?
So I didn't want to forget anything, so I ended up writing notes on the back of this fucking flatbread pizza box because I was like, yo, I know this movie is Doctor Strange is 2.5 hours long. I know I'm going to, you know, the end, the last half and the end will be clear, you know, because it'll be the last things I see. The beginning is always where I kind of
like
forget details, you know, like small stuff. So
Because everything bleeds together.
yeah, so I wrote what I had, and hopefully some of this stuff makes sense. So that'll be our bonus episode. Does Botter's handwriting in the dark make sense? That'll be a new game that we play.
That's going to be the title of the episode.
All right, Drew, I don't think we need too much. We're pros at this point.
Oh, yeah.
We're pros at this point. I don't think we
Don't
need
need
too
no
much.
warm-up. You can just go for it.
Yeah. I mean, that was pretty good warm-up. You pretending to be dead and
Oh,
freaking
yeah.
me out.
Sorry.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Let me take a sweet water. Just some water today. All right, here we go. Let's do it. Yo, Short Box Nation. Welcome back for the last installment of this weekly Moon Knight recap series we've been doing. Today, we're saying goodbye to our pals, Mark and Steven, for now at least. And we get to answer some questions we received from listeners about the series. I'm excited to get this episode started. And as Steven would say...
I'm really jazzed about showing you these new skill sets we have.
Ooh, that doesn't sound nearly as good. Let me try that again.
I'm really jazzed about showing you these new skill sets we have.
Really jazzed.
Yeah, really jazzed.
Really jazzed.
We're really jazzed about this episode. But if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to the Short Box Podcast. My name is Botter Milligan, and I'm joined by my right-hand man, Andrew Torres. Yo, what up, D?
Yo,
Bro, happy
I'm on the
Friday.
left right now, but you know how it is.
Yeah. My right-hand man, sitting to the left of me, Andrew Torres.
Yeah.
Dude, happy Friday, man.
Ooh, it is Happy Friday.
Are you ready for your long overdue vacation and the ability to get back your Friday afternoons?
No, I mean it's okay. Like my Friday afternoons are pretty good. I like doing this, so I mean,
I like
I
that.
mean,
Was
am I
the-
looking forward to getting my Friday afternoons? I mean, no.
That was the right answer. You could
No.
have just stopped right
Okay.
there. All right, you saying too much. I set you up for that one. All right, listeners, before we proceed, let's play it safe, and I'm going to give everyone tuning in a spoiler warning. We'll be talking about important plot points, some nitty-gritty details. You know, if you've been listening to this series since episode 1, you know the rules by now. That warning especially applies to our Patreon subscribers who are probably hearing this on Friday afternoon. If you're enjoying our commentary on Wednesday for the rest of the Shortbox crew, this will be more like a recap of the season finale now that it's about a week old. But if you want our fresh reactions the same day that we record episodes like this in the future, consider becoming a Patreon subscriber. In addition to early access to both the video and audio version of this podcast, you get to vote on the topics we cover. And depending on the tier that you sign up for, you can even receive a custom Shortbox welcome package from us filled with merch and comics from our personal collections. Sign up for our Patreon using the link in this episode's show notes and support the podcast for as little as $1. And if you're still in the mood for more Shortbox content after this one, or you just want to hear a discussion about the latest comic news and developments in comic culture, check out the other episode we dropped today alongside this one. It's called Shortbox News, and it's dedicated to covering broader and relevant comic news that we feel deserve your attention. Listen to that wherever you get your podcast, wherever you listen to this one. Just cue that one up next. Now that the housekeeping is complete, we can really get started on discussing the season finale of Moon Knight, a.k.a. Episode 6, titled Gods and Monsters. We do got the episode pulled up on our end, on our side, and we're going to have it playing in the back just to set the mood. You know, me and Drew won't be doing our usual play-by-play. It'll really kind of be a broader discussion and kind of talking about everything that happened. But so we'll really just have it going for reference. We'll get started in 3, 2, 1. I'm pressing play on Disney Plus right now. I definitely fucked up that countdown. Someone was like hitting it at one.
I'm pressing it now.
All right, Drew. I figured that we can, be a little more relaxed on this one. I want to break down this
hell yeah.
episode.
Take my pants off right now.
Let's go pantless. It's Friday.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
casual Friday.
It's
Let's go
casual
pantsless.
Friday.
All right, let's break down this episode and tackle it like scene by scene and discuss the major sequence of events. Which, hearing myself say that doesn't sound relaxed at all. It actually sounds like more homework. But would you agree that, considering that, let's just get a quick little Doctor Strange tidbit in. Seeing as we both watched the movie on opening night on Thursday, does this show or this episode feel like a palate cleanser, considering everything we saw in Doctor Strange?
Yeah,
and
like
that whole
in less
tone?
than 48 hours, there's just so much Marvel content that we just absorbed. So yeah, it definitely feels like a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
And I gotta like differentiate the two.
Yeah, I only asked because I ended up rewatching Moon Knight when we got back from the theaters. You know, it's like kind of like a wind down, and the last thing we watched before we went to bed.
Yeah,
And
and it's a solid episode to watch. Like,
yeah, you know, it's like, it's like last episode of the season. I'm also gonna be going to bed. Let's like close out the night in a positive way, right? Especially after the adrenaline. Like, I came back home from Doctor Strange, adrenaline on high.
yeah, I know. I remember I got that phone. Like, I got that text message. You're like, yo, you got a minute? You call me.
I was like, look, I don't care that it's midnight. I've got 2 hours worth of talk to go.
We gotta
go through. But Moon Knight was nice to like. It was like just tonally different. It was a lot more relaxed. And after watching Doctor Strange and it being such a big MCU movie, right? Like, we're kicking off the summer of movies with that in that roster.
And
Moon Knight,
Free Comic Book Day hasn't even shown
bro,
up yet, and we
this
still
is
got
such a good. I love the week of Free Comic Book Day.
Okay.
Because usually, I mean, it's been kind of tradition where a MCU movie will drop the Friday before or the week of Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah.
And now we've been able to enjoy, like, I think even last year, there was a season finale of one of the MCU shows that fell on Free Comic Book Day, followed by a movie, if I'm not mistaken. It's been, like, just nice. But anyways, I say all that to say, after coming back from Doctor Strange, it only drove home the point of how different Moon Knight feels overall. Like, like, would you agree? Like,
Yeah. 100%. Because we've talked about that. Are you talking about like Moon Knight compared to
like,
Doctor Strange.
I'm talking about Doctor Strange, but also like the rest of the MCU, because I think I might have this might have been something we agreed on early, that Moon Knight feels so insular, right? Like it doesn't feel like it's attached or takes part.
Yeah, we still
in
don't know
any-
where it takes place in
Oh,
any of the MCU.
I learned it.
You learned?
Well, I read it in an article somewhere, but they mentioned that this takes place post Endgame, so after the snap, all that.
Okay.
So that's where it is, I believe, in the
But
timeline.
we just don't
but-
know like where to like lead it in the
Yeah.
sense of like, you know, there's probably a guy with like red string theory and he's like has all the time, and then Moon Knight's just like a big like exclamation mark.
Always sunny in Philadelphia meme right here.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm getting at is that Moon Knight feels like an insular pocket. Like it's in the MCU, of course, because it's Moon Knight, but it also feels like kind of in its own corner. And that's how Moon Knight's always kind of been in the comic books. Like, wouldn't you agree? Like, he's always been that character that's always done his own thing. His villains don't really cross over. He doesn't really much cross over with like the rest of the Marvel universe.
I would honestly say that he's always been a B-list, C-list superhero.
Oh yeah.
And because of this show, they've basically just put him to the forefront of just A-list acting and A-list type of superhero. But to agree with you, yeah, it does feel like it's its own pocket. And for the comic books, he's kind of just kept to himself and done his own thing and he would show up every so often in like those like, you know, BC team members.
Yeah.
Was he in West Coast Avengers?
Oh, I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. I could be wrong, but I vaguely remember. Interesting that you say, you know, this C-list character got some A-list acting, A-list talent throughout all of it.
All the way.
And I think we saw that in this episode. So let's go ahead and work. Oops, I got a little notification. All right. Let's go ahead and work through the scenes. Let's actually get started. So scene 1, we're in the tomb right after Mark gets shot.
And we called that. I think we called that. We were talking about how this is going to take place where we're going to find out where
What was happening simultaneously while Mark was, you know, balancing his scales in the afterlife, what was going on like in the physical realm, like what was going on with his body, Layla, and then Harrow, which, you know, which made sense, right? Like they had to explain that. So it was good that we got that out of the way early. So we start we're in the tomb right after Mark gets shot. Harrow claims Ahmet's figurine, or as they call it, the Ushapti, for his own, and he demonstrates his new powers on the police at the traffic stop. Let me pause right there. Thoughts? Any particular moments from this that stand out to you?
Oh, the part that was so great, it was like how they kind of, I don't want to say like, was it hand-fisted? But it was one of those things where he's like, goodbye, Mark, Steven, whoever else is in there. And you're like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
You're like, wink, wink. So that's the part that kind of stood out the most because I was like, all right, that's a very specific line that like he really put, and he puts it like,
Yeah.
and then also I really like,
He
I really
looked at
like-
the camera. Whoever else.
yeah, whoever else.
Whoever Jake. I mean, else is in there.
But the one thing that I really did like that he said was after he had like straight up killed Mark, he just tells him, he's like, sometimes you need the sweet.
Oh, he said sometimes you need the cold, the cold death to feel real. I know what you're talking about.
But
We're
he goes,
fucking it up, but
sometimes you need to die to live.
Mm.
Like, so you're like, oh,
Yeah.
dang, okay.
Yeah, it's a
So-
little foreshadowy.
So when that happened, you're like, dang, this guy is like, all right, well, I guess he won.
Yeah, I will. So for this opening scene, it drove home the point that to me that the music has been phenomenal. Like the soundtrack, the score has been really good in this show. And I can't recall the name of the song they played in the beginning off the top of my head, but I know that if you were to make a playlist of all the music and songs that they played throughout this, you'd have a pretty solid playlist. I would think. It always feels like it's not too on the nose, but it also gives you an idea of like, you know, the mood it sets. They do a really good job setting the mood with the music they pick. I do want to say Layla, straight Splinter Cell. Straight Splinter Cell.
Straight up.
I don't even know why she had to get rid of it, like take out that. I think the person was like patrolling, and he might have found her. But
she just hit him hard. And she's like, whap. I was like, oh, damn.
yeah,
And then like,
and Harold doesn't even care. He's like, okay, keep it moving. It's not like I didn't fucking see Layla run away. I'm not gonna have you guys search the perimeters. We good here. Let's just keep. I don't even want to know. Also, what else do I got? I got some notes here I want to share. The filming location, like when they leave the tomb, Alexander's tomb, and they're driving through the desert, like this has been. I think that's added to this show standing out is just the scene, like, you know, where the setting is, like them being in the desert, and you know, they have like really good like establishing shots and setting up the environment.
Yeah, because I think you're not allowed to film in Egypt.
Dude, I wouldn't be. I mentioned this before. I wouldn't be surprised if some of this was filmed in Death Valley, Nevada.
Okay.
So it just looks a lot like some of the places I had went to recently. But how much? You know what else is Harrow's power? In my opinion, when you watch this opening scene, white privilege. The fact that Harrow can walk out of his car at a traffic stop and tell the police, "Yo, there's nothing to worry about. I'm not gonna not follow the orders at all." I was like, "Damn, that's his other power."
He's
His
like, show
white-
us your papers.
The fact Harrow can just walk out and be like, "No, all good, all good, all
We
good.
good, we good,
We
we
don't,
good."
we do. I don't need to do that."
Yeah.
Matter of fact, how about you show me your papers?
And he's just like this.
That axe is pretty cool though.
The axe?
That the sequence
Oh yeah,
where,
when it like morphs from
when-
like the balance scales to like
yeah, the two croc heads to the axe and bigger croc head. That's a pretty badass weapon.
You're like, dang, all right.
I've never really respected the staff as a weapon. I'll be honest with
Neither
you.
have I. Like, especially like Loki staff. When Loki staff happens, I was like, all right, it's a sharp end. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we'll see how it goes.
You know what it is? It's because I think Donatello's always been my least favorite.
Oh
so
my
I always just look
God.
at the staff like, eh. But Harrow's actually got an axe at the end of it. You know, it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. It's pretty cool. What did you think about because this in this opening scene we also get to see Taweret communicate with Layla per Mark's instruction. Hey, you know, in last episode he told her, hey, reach out to Layla. You know, have her free Khonshu. We got to see that, you know, and we mentioned, you know, maybe being able to see that transpire, but I wasn't expecting her to be able to communicate via the dead bodies. That was a little surprising, but really cool too.
Wait, she's like, yeah, Mark sent me. And she's like, what do you want? She's like, ugh.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next scene here. So after that happens, we get to see Harrow make his way to the pyramids where the other gods
That
gather.
shot was funny to me. When they're on the pyramids and they're all like going crisscross every which way. It kind of what's that? The director from Fantastic Mr. Fox,
Oh, Wes Anderson?
Wes Anderson. This felt like a Wes Anderson shot because it was like perfectly squared, and everybody's walking every which way.
Yeah. So we get to see Harrow make his way to the pyramids where the other gods gather after they learn.
Yo,
about
shout out to the
Matt's
gods
awakening.
where they're like, "What's happening?"
Dude, I was like, well, now you guys want to admit
Oh,
it,
okay.
huh?
He's like, somebody's trying to think. I was like,
You guys
oh,
didn't
okay.
care to, I don't know, observe the guy that has been, you know, doing all this shit underneath your noses. I was a little upset about that, but so
Because you were so convinced that guy was like in
dude, I
on
was.
it. Like that
I
guy,
was.
you're like, this
But
guy's a
at the end of the
plant.
day, he did get his just dues for being a dumbass. But he kills them. He kills the other gods, and he frees Ahmet while Khonshu tries to strike a deal with Layla.
That was
So we'll pause here.
another interesting thing was when he came up, when he like comes up into the pyramid, and he tells him, he's like, you guys are not warriors, you guys are just
Judges.
Judges. That's what he said. So I was like, oh, okay. So
He essentially was telling them, you guys don't want these hands because you guys don't got hands.
yeah, that's what. Yeah, and I was like, okay, because I was like, all these guys are supposed to be like the they're all,
Avatars.
yeah, they're supposed to be avatars and be powerful. You mean to tell me that Khonshu's the only one that has a suit? Khonshu's the only one. Like,
Khonshu's the only one that's actually about some
you know
action.
what I'm saying? I would,
you know.
if I'd be like, oh man, we fucked up, I would run right into that thing. I would grab like 6 of those Asantis and I'd be like this.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like, why didn't y'all show up an army? I don't know, man.
Budget
I
guy.
know. The other guys.
The budget didn't pay for that.
Yeah. You know why? Because I felt like they spent a lot of money on Ahmet, which I was happy to see Ahmet. I know that it wasn't going to make or break it for me, but I was curious if we were going to see some of the other gods in physical form.
She does not feel out of place whatsoever.
Bro, scary too.
Mhm.
Like I didn't know what to expect because you think like, okay, she is, you know, half crocodile. Now I'm having a brain fart on the other parts of her, but she's a giant crocodile lady at the end of
Yeah.
the day with braids. And I was like, this is.
She walks really good. She's walking around.
Then she was in heels.
100%. That's what I loved about it. She's just walking around like it's nothing.
Yeah,
She's walking
nice,
around
yeah.
like and just
Okay, I'm sorry, because I want to get this right. So she is a goddess with the 4 quarters of a lion, the hind quarters of a hippo, and the head of a crocodile. You know, so we've got 3 different. Now, granted, I didn't really get the vibes for the other aspects. You know, she's 4 quarters of a lion, so maybe her braids were meant to be like the main. I guess the fact that she was just really big.
all I saw was a walking, talking
Yeah,
crocodile.
exactly,
I was like, oh
exactly.
shit, they hired the crocodile from Hook. The Hook crocodile. I was like, yo, I was like, dang.
The hook crocodile would be watching this like, damn, shawty. Nah, let me get your number.
So big.
Ahmet looked great though.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way she was strutting around, and already it was like she had a presence of she like commanded her scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who the actress or actor that was supposed to maybe play her. I'll have to look that up. But as soon as she showed up, you're right. Didn't feel out of place. There wasn't like it didn't feel jarring. It was like, oh damn, this is who Harrow's been like, committing all of these crimes and his whole life to.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
And then she was even surprised. She's like, "Who released me?" And he's like, "Oh, it's me." And she's like, "What's up?"
But you're not. You know what? She was like, you're not normally my type.
Yeah, you're You're kind of off balance. And he's like, "I know."
Now, were you expecting that? Was it a big surprise that Harrow himself really technically wouldn't be worthy, right? Like the fact that, and it's a little contradictory, right? Like he's out here judging people.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, his scales are unbalanced.
Well, that's what he said. I think that was like one of the most powerful, not the one of the most powerful scenes, but it was very much like a good scene that I thought was really great because Harrow's sitting there in front, he's sweating like profusely, like, all right, well, I get.
Oh yeah,
like,
he's staring at this giant goddess, this
Yeah.
giant alligator goddess for the first time.
and he's just like, "Yo, what's up?" And then he tells him, he's like, "I was hoping that like the fact that I did all this would balance my scales." And I think that's one thing that he understands. Like he understands that
I'm
he's
not a
like,
good guy.
he's not a good man.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got to do all this penance to kind of rewrite myself in this.
Which makes episode 1 and watching him crush the glass, put it in his shoes, make a lot more sense. Like I think when you see that scene, it establishes, okay, this guy is a hardcore devout. He's but you're not quite sure why.
But yeah, and then when you find out later that he worked for Conchu. And
he
he's Conchu's vengeance. He's probably killing a lot of people. He had to do a lot of stuff. And it's one of and he's even said, he's like, "Oh yeah, I heard the voice. I worked for Conchu. Like I did all that stuff, and it was basically you did all that work for nothing."
Through Harrow, you get. I mean, it only I think exemplifies that the weight of the toll of working as an avatar, right? Like.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Harrow feels so guilt-ridden about what he's possibly done, I think just in life in general, but for sure probably what he's done as Conchu's avatar, has weighed on him so much that he's willing to awaken like Ahmet to like, judge the world and hopefully never anyone have to go through that.
Because Moon Knight's vengeance, and that's what I thought was really great. Because when Khonshu and Tawit are talking, they're arguing of like who's more right. Like
Yeah, they have that same kind of like ideology debate and philosophical debate as Steven and Harrow had, I think, in episode 2 or 3, whenever.
When he brings him into the office,
the
not
compound.
office, when he brings in the compound, he's like, "Hey man," he's like, "You guys look like you want to kill children."
Exactly, yeah.
And he's like, "I'm not in the business of killing children."
Yeah, we see that kind of play out in a little more nuanced ways.
I love
between the guys.
when Harrow finds the face of a good man, and he gets so excited. When he gets excited, he's like, he does the balance scale.
Yeah.
The dude, everybody dies.
This
and
is the face of a good man.
This is the face of a good man.
I'll be honest with you. I bet you it feels so good to get that approval. I bet you're like, I mean, okay, all right.
I was about to shoot you, but yeah, you killed all my friends.
But Harrow, to me, you got to give him credit that he's actually about it. The fact that he is so committed to his philosophy, right? That he's willing to be like, look, I'm not balanced. I am more than happy to have one of my other followers. He was willing to put someone else from the team up front. That's the sign of a good leader.
Yeah,
the fact that he's willing to play.
I trained everybody, so you
yeah,
good.
it's like, look, I thought that was really revealing that he wasn't just like spineless. At the end of the day, he stood by his words and he was aware that I'm not perfect neither. There was something about that.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, obviously they killed a lot of people, but in his story, like, they're not villains. They're just doing God's work.
Well said.
God's work.
Well said. All right, let's move on to the next scene and next kind of sequence here. So after that takes place, Khonshu faces Ahmet because Layla frees him.
Which is such a cool scene. When she like grabs it.
I got a lot of Aladdin genie vibes. You
Oh,
know?
100%.
All of these like deities busting out of.
And it's like, all right, cool.
So let me see.
And then I love when she like, she's fully formed. She has like her face together. She's not like all decrepit. And then we see Khonshu, and she's like, "Ooh, Khonshu,
Oh,
I see the years are not good to you."
And I think he even says, "I know."
200 years, like I think it was like 2,000 years since they last saw each other.
He agrees. He's like, "Yeah, no, I agree."
Do you feel like they were former lovers?
Bro? Yes, because they've got a certain. they've got attention to them, and I think it's because there's a lot of similarity and overlap, and Ahmet even brings that up. That like, hey, we're fighting for the same thing, and Conchu's like, not exactly, but the way they bickered. And there was like a sense of passion to me. There was like it was like some heat between them.
Yeah.
Not just the fighting, but you
Yeah,
know.
and later on in the episode when they're talking, you can find it. Like, because I mean, at this point, this entire episode, Khonshu and Ahmet are talking the entire time. They're
sure.
talking and fighting the
Yeah.
entire time.
I wish they would have at least shown us just quickly, maybe the night of that Conchu was talking about.
Oh,
I think if they
because
showed,
he says it's so heartbroken when he
Exactly,
says it,
that's-
he's like, I remember.
that's
that
what I'm
night."
saying, and I wonder if it deals with or is related to maybe a past relationship with Ahmed, and maybe this is where their differences really caused them to split, or maybe he had like some emotional toll on her being banished. Like I wish they would have shown us that because it would have made that fight between them, I think, a little more impactful,
Just a little
rather
bit,
than
yeah.
it just being a really cool giant kaiju battle
Yeah, yeah.
between the two.
I mean, because honestly, I mean, like you said, when we were watching these scenes, like I think you can just tell, like, oh, there's definitely history behind them, but there's something that they're like not
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, not addressing. Okay,
As
so
I'm a bird, you're a crocodile. Like, it's not gonna work
I
out.
think birds and crocodiles do.
Yeah,
like,
dinosaurs.
Well, not only that, but I think they literally have a relation. Like certain birds, like will
Yeah, they're like you know, he's
we'll
just
pick at
yeah,
alligator's
pick her
skin.
alligator's teeth. So he's just basically picking her teeth with his little bird beak.
Right. All right, let me finish
That's
this.
that's the scene I want.
So Conchu faces Ahmed. Mark is at the field of reeds and makes the decision to go back to the afterlife to free Steven and restoring the balance in his heart. And then he escapes the realm of the dead with the help of Talret. Let's pause here and really talk about. So what? It's about how long is that? That would be about 10 minutes in. We'll say about 13 minutes into the episode, we finally get to see a Mark. He's at the field of reeds. It does look like a lovely place.
Oh, it does.
Like it looks
100%.
so peaceful. And speaking of peaceful,
I love how he's like, you don't want to, like, it's like you never have to be alone. It's like, I think he's by himself.
it's like there's only so much a man can talk to a bunch of like reeds before he goes crazy. Like is it really hell or heaven? But anyways, the fact that he brings up when he brings up how quiet it is, I thought that it to me really drove home the point of like this is why this would be enticing for him, and this is why it would be like his version of heaven, or not his version of heaven, but why this would be heavenly for him. The fact that and Harrow kind of hints at it too in one of the earlier episodes about, he says, I remember the day I woke up and Conchu was no longer in my mind, that quiet. So imagine that sense of quiet and that appreciation for quiet on top of the fact that Mark has lived his life with multiple voices in his head. Like think about how relieving, how much relief he probably had being at the field of reeds and being able to not only let go of past trauma or at least like address it, but to also just have peace.
Yeah.
Peace and quiet.
He's like, all right, I'm a warrior. I did my fighting. I died. So like, this is like how I should be able to enjoy the afterlife.
Did you tear up at all when Mark goes back for Steven and he says that line, you are my only real superpower?
I didn't. I kind of chuckled a little bit.
What?
I
You
chuckled.
monster.
I know. Sorry. He's like, you're the only superpower. I was like, all right. Like, and then I thought it was like a very very
Wait.
beautiful moment.
Yeah, no, it was definitely so the way I understood it was that the fact that he goes back for Steven and like he has that moment of like really kind of appreciating him and accepting the fact that he's a part of his life. Like it then balanced maybe his heart because he had his heart in his hand. Like he kind of I think there's that symbolic. You can look at it symbolically, but like literally, he had his heart in his hand and he's giving it to, and he's sharing it with Steven. I think like at that point, was that when he truly found balance? I wonder, because I mean, he found his way to the field of reeds because in the prior episode his scales balanced, but then in this moment in this scene right here, it was like maybe his scales weren't balanced so much so as his heart was finally full.
100%.
Which is really beautiful to say it.
Yeah,
back
it is like, but it's so crazy now because now the most beautiful thing is the fact that like Mark is the original real person. He has a soul, like that's the thing, and then now Steven is a new character that he's like accepted. He's like, no, this is Steven. Like Steven is Steven and Mark is Mark.
Yeah, they've
We're
kind of
two
like
people
they've finally learned how to like
balance.
they have a balance. They have a balance, like a truly balanced like relationship, where it's like you're a part of me as much as I'm a part of you, and we now aren't going to be fighting for control. You know, I think there's that level to it of it too. But I am curious. But I do have a burning question.
Yeah, what happened to his leg?
Yeah,
you're like
his leg was
like,
asleep.
Yeah,
He was like, you know, when you get on the like your knee, when you're on your like one knee the whole for a while working on something, and your foot goes to sleep. You're like, ah,
He's like,
shit.
"Yo, I'm slowing you down. You need to go." What was the burning question?
Well, my burning question. That's pretty funny. My burning question is how, and this is me really nitpicking, but how would his scales have been balanced when he's got Jake inside of him? You know, like the last episode was him addressing like the trauma and these memories that have impacted him that he's kind of like hasn't addressed and hidden within himself. But it's like, but Jake was also in him the whole time. So it's kind of like, how did he even get to the field of reeds without addressing or revealing Jake?
I think honestly because they didn't open that coffin, so he never got a chance to like come out at all. So it's
Okay.
just them two in that journey.
Okay, that's pretty good. All right, I'll take that for now. But at the end of the day, I'll leave it to
And
they
Khonshu,
only
I mean,
they
and
only had
we-
one episode.
Yeah, and we don't even know that Khonshu probably buried the third one
so deep, yo.
deep.
And I think that's why his reveal is even more scary. Where it's like, how? What has Jake done? What else has Jake done that we don't know that even Mark and Steven have? I mean, clearly they have no idea that he's even there. But the fact that no other gods like Tao Ret didn't bring it up, that no one else has any idea of Jake.
Jake
except
doesn't even
for
speak
Khonshu.
English. You don't even speak English
I
at
have-
all.
that is way too
Yeah,
funny.
so I'm saying like, yo, Jake is basically the direct. Like I've been watching a lot of like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, where it's like the cartel,
No.
and I'm just like, oh yeah, Jake
Yeah,
is that.
that shit-
Jake's that cartel.
Yeah. He said you don't even speak English.
He don't even
That's
speak English.
rough. All right. So after this scene takes place, we then get to the next scene, which is Mark and Steven renegotiating the deal with Khonshu. And of course, we get to see Layla become Tao Ret's
Yeah.
avatar as well. Let's start with the renegotiation.
Well, let's talk about the fact that they're both so. Mark goes to Steven. He goes to the Sands of Time, gives him his heart. They basically come out of it.
Yep.
Then that door opens,
Yep.
and then you find out that it was Osiris. Osiris was the one that opened the door because Tawet comes and
Oh, and
she's
she's
like,
like,
Osiris, you old softy,
you
you.
big softy you.
And then they both run in, and then I love it when as soon as like they come back to the door, like Khonshu already like feels the presence. He goes, Mark, and then just like disappears. So yeah, like you said, they're doing they're talking, which is great. I like the fact that like Khonshu's there, and he's like, my favorite thing was like, my wife told you no, huh?
Yeah.
And like Khonshu doesn't even like,
like,
he goes,
Yeah, you read about her.
He's like-
Layla El Fuli will talk down to a god. No fear. Man.
oh, we skipped over that. Can we talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah.
The fact that like even before Mark and them get out, Khonshu is like basically going to Layla, and he's like, I love when he just starts it off. Will you be my? And she's like, no.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? And he's like, well, I need an avatar, and she goes, no, I'm not gonna be your avatar.
She's like, I literally know Mark. I've seen what he's gone through.
You've made his life a living nightmare, and he's like, all right.
mean,
and then
you're
he-
right about
And then he
that.
just leaves.
I'm gonna go fight Ahmet. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'd rather fight Ahmet than
Then
deal
listen to
with
this bullshit.
Yeah. Pause real quick.
Oh, pause.
Yeah, pause real quick.
I'm so sorry.
No, not you. It's just that I'm seeing my email blow up. Fuck, I think so.
Okay. I'm gonna go grab me a snack or something.
Oh my god, I missed this fucking meeting too. Fuck, bro. I'm sorry. Oh my god. Shit.
Hey,
Hey, I'm. God, this is like the second meeting I missed with Elena today.
it's okay. I don't think she noticed.
But that's good and bad in a weird way. But I did see she forwarded it to me at 1:37. I just missed it. Well,
Yeah, it's okay. We didn't even talk about that much.
oh, what was it for?
It was for the collateral, basically going over what I told you how the meeting they had the other day was a shit show.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so what Vera's gonna do is set up a meeting with Stephanie to figure out like what she actually does.
Okay.
And and Elena sent Ike a note saying like can I get an org chart of like what your team does because we don't know who should be the point person for this. And then we're gonna meet with Christina Barcelona, who's in charge of the care programs. And since the like field marketing collateral has been such a pain in the ass, we're just gonna try and start with the field with like the Better You and the care programs to see if we can actually get stuff done there.
Huh. So like completely shifts from Stephanie to what's her name? Christina Barcelona.
Yeah, Christina Barcelona. And I mean, I think we'll still try to keep the other stuff going, but this is another piece that needs to be done anyway. So
Interesting.
maybe we can gain some traction. It's like,
Got it.
hopefully we can say, look, part of your team is really helpful, and the other part
Got it.
isn't doing anything.
And
you
Christina
know?
Barcelona is strictly with the Better You segment.
So I don't exactly know. I think she's over like all care programs. Um, but she's gonna be like our main contact on like she'll be able to tell us who does what
Yeah.
and what needs to be in the locations
So
for
she's
the things.
Better You slash care program. Christina Barcelona. Okay. Sweet. This Christina Barcelona. Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So you didn't miss much.
So just more meetings to talk about the work. Got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, just
Instead of actually getting the work done.
Dang. So we're doing next week's brand team meeting virtual again.
Yeah, Elena. I don't remember why we switched it. Oh, because she's getting a puppy.
Oh. Oh shit. Did something happen? Did I know that her other puppy wasn't feeling the best?
So Bella's still fine, but the vet thought it would be like a good idea to bring another dog in to like
Aw.
keep her going longer.
Damn.
So
That's a
I
great.
guess like yeah, I guess her friend had like knows someone that's a dog trainer, and they had like a run that they were trying to sell. So
Okay.
she got it, and yeah, so she's picking the puppy up on Thursday. So that's why we're
Got it.
switching.
And I'm sure that is a fantastic reason to have, considering the group or the team that we have and all the dog lovers.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay. Well, I appreciate the recap. I'm sorry I missed it.
No, no problem.
Okay. Well, Jordan, I appreciate it. I'm here if you need anything for the rest of the day. But other than that, I hope you have a good Friday and a good weekend.
Sounds good. You too.
All right. Bye.
All right, bye.
You.
You're the bad. Yo, can I get one of these?
You know what? Oh, yeah, go.
How you dude, I feel like this is a good episode so far. I know we're jumping around.
No, dude. That fucked me up because I was like, damn it, this is where.
No, I get it.
I was like, yo, the fact that me and you are both so focused, dude. Yeah, man. Yeah, Brandon. I think we should have been doing this format, but it's all good. No, we're killing it. So now I'm like, all right, fuck. Now I gotta remember where we stopped. We stopped when we said Kanchu would leave. When to leave to go fight Ahmet because he's like, I ain't fucking with this. So what I'll do is okay. All right, back from interrupted break. So I think I'll just pick us up and say, I'll say something like this.
Hey, listen, we'll just
Yeah,
let's not hide it from the fans.
No,
Guys, we had a technical.
Actually, I was just gonna. I can literally cut out that part and it'll just jump or whatever. So on the topic, while we're talking about Layla, what are your thoughts on her costume? We'll get back to Mark and the renegotiation.
We're recording right now.
Yeah, we're
I didn't even
recording.
see the button. What do we think of her costume, or the costume reveal, or the fact that we were getting a costume?
Yeah, I wasn't
Like,
expecting.
yo, let's do the setup. All right, so first Layla is talking to Tyree.
Tyrette, yeah.
Tyrette's like, Layla! She's like, temporary. She's like, I'll be your avatar. She's like, temporary. Because that's the thing is, like, she was totally against it until she talked to the home guy.
Osiris.
And was that Osiris?
I believe that was Osiris.
Okay.
Because
Was
Osiris was telling her like, look, he was telling her essentially how to defeat Ahmed.
Yeah,
that
he's
they
like-
need to bind her to
Her human form.
a human period or just
Yeah.
Harrow, and then they could just stop her there.
The person there. And then she's like, all right, cool,
But
cool.
but it needs to be done by another avatar. Only avatars could do it.
and then
that's
she's
when-
like, all right, well, I guess I'll go to Tyree. And it's funny, like, yo, but Layla knows that history. So let's just know the fact
Yeah.
that, like, Layla has, like, that history in her head. So she probably knows, like,
she
what's
knows like
this, what that.
she knows that Khonshu isn't the way to go, and it's
Mhm.
like if there's any avatar I'm going to bind to, it'd probably be Tyrette.
But, secretly, did you want her to, like, get like a female version Moon Knight costume? Like, listen, I'm totally satisfied with what we got. Like, I'm happy.
yeah,
but
yeah,
if they
yeah.
were like, I just like, hey,
They would have put
what
her in
if?
the
Like, if they made it like a what if
Yeah.
season 2 is like a what if they do season 2 what if, like, what if Layla
That's good.
took the Moon Knight thing, I'd be like, all right, cool, take my
What
my
if-
money.
Essentially, what if Layla became Khonshu's
Choose some
avatar?
title. Okay, let's say Marvel. Listen,
All right, that's it.
that's it.
Look, listeners, you heard it here first, because that is good enough to where that could be a little twist. That's a good one.
A little
That's a good
twisty
one.
twist.
Now I will say, I found it interesting. I don't know if you caught this, but did you catch how
course I
Tyrette?
caught it.
Did
No.
you catch how Tyrette essentially told Layla that she guided her father?
Oh yeah,
to
she's
fill
like,
the reeds.
100%.
She's like, he's gonna love this. I can't wait to tell him. I thought that was so endearing, and I wonder if that played a role in her decision and Layla's decision to be like, okay, clearly my dad. You're probably I'm aware of who you are,
You're super sweet.
and not only that, but I've got no other options.
Yeah.
It's like Osiris just died.
yeah, I can't be his avatar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Her suit now. Her
Dude.
suit. Her suit. And I'm gonna
I
ask you this.
screamed.
I'm gonna-
I screamed.
I think that was one of my what the fuck moments. And damn it, I had lost train of thought. Okay,
The reveal, the way she reveals.
did she look like in that moment? She like just
don't have to say.
yoked, bro. I was like, yo, she's cut up.
I was like, you know what happens?
She's
when
been
you
hiding
put,
them
yo,
guns?
You put a little bit of like mousse in your hair,
Do
couple
some
little
push-ups.
push-ups.
It
Yeah.
looked like way more than push-ups, bro. Them arms.
Yo, she looked yoked as fuck.
Her arms look like they could cut another pyramid.
100%.
Just a pyramid out of stone.
I mean, she did just break that Conchu's thing. Like, how much pressure do you need to break the Ashanti? And not Ashanti, who's the
singer,
R&B
obviously.
singer.
Nah, dude. But her costume. When I first laid eyes on it, I was like, okay, I see the Egyptian influence.
Okay.
I see the Egyptian influence, and visually, I was for some reason I immediately thought Wonder Woman, but also this character.
Yeah, the golden Wonder Woman like costume. The WW84 one, right?
Yeah, the
Okay.
WW84 Wonder Woman costume. But then I also thought about this very obscure DC character from the 70s called Isis. And,
Okay.
Also kind of like Egyptian themed comic
And
book.
she's up with Black Adams. She runs with Black Adams.
I believe so. I believe so.
So there's definitely that Middle Eastern Morocco vibe to it.
Did you say Morocco just because I'm from Morocco?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. What did you think about the costume?
What
And
did I
what did
think
you
about
think
the
about the reveal when she pauses for a little bit and then
And then she
got
whips
the
out
blades.
swords and then wings. I said, "Oh,
2 for
damn."
1.
I like same thing with the costume reveal. I would say that I absolutely love the costume reveal. You got me so excited right now.
Yeah.
I saw it and I was like, "Damn, she looks like Hawk Girl. Like
Hawk
she looks
Girl,
like
yeah.
Kendra from Hawk Girl." I was like,
Hmm.
"Wow."
They better come out with an action figure of her because she looks way too cool not to have like an action figure offering. Especially if you're going to like have that moment where she inspires like another like the young Egyptian girl.
No,
Like
I think that's Miss Marvel that was
no way.
I want to say
No
that was
way.
Miss Marvel
But that
because
would've-
they're speaking Arabic to each other. I want to say that's Miss Marvel. I think that little girl is Miss Marvel.
I highly
I
doubt
am
it.
65% positive that's Miss Marvel.
But Miss Marvel, and you're talking about Kamala Khan for the record.
Mhm.
Kamala Khan was inspired directly from Captain Marvel, or yeah, Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Ah,
That's
okay,
cool.
okay.
That's cool.
All right, I'll
That's
give you
cool.
that. I'll give you this. That would be cool if
But
they
here's the
tied
thing,
in the
but-
fact
but-
that that girl that sees Layla save her and she asks, "Are you an Egyptian hero?" and she's like, "Yeah." If they somehow tie that in, I wouldn't be mad at that.
Okay. Kamala
doubt-
Khan. I'm gonna Kamala Khan Moon Knight.
What does it say?
It says, is Miss Marvel and Moon Knight. Miss Marvel joins Wolverine. No, hold on. Damn.
Google was just like, nah, Drew.
Nah.
Nah,
Miss
Drew.
Marvel joins.
Look,
Oh my god.
While you look that up, let's go to the next scene. The next scene following that is Khonshu. We get the Khonshu versus Ahmet fight, giant kaiju battle, and by the pyramids.
Which I didn't think we were gonna get.
I
There's
wasn't- I didn't
no
think
way
we
I
were-
would have thought that.
I didn't think we were gonna get it to that scale.
That's what I wanted to say. Okay, so Layla becomes an MCU Scarlet Scarab, which I think is like the first. I think this is its own thing.
That's a separate character.
No, Scarlet Scarab, is that its own thing? Is that like a real MCU character, or
I
was
don't
this
know. I
made
mean,
for this show? I like
look up-
from
look
the
up,
articles that I've
Look
read.
up Marvel Comics Scarlet Scarab. See what pops up.
Okay, I got you.
But while you're doing that, in the next scene, we get Khonshu versus the Ahmet fight, which is giant kaiju battle by the pyramids. The Moon Knight versus Harrow. So this is really like the heavy action sequence. We get Moon Knight versus Harrow, and we also get that scene that really had me let out a giant and loud "What the fuck?" Mark blacking out and just just taking care of everybody. What did you find? Did you
I
find
found
David
it
Scott?
yet. I feel dumb.
I don't. I think this is a character they made for the MCU.
I honestly thought that little girl was basically going to be Kamala Khan, just like there, sees her,
Well,
and
I
did-
hope
then
you learned that everyone that speaks Arabic is not like the same. We're not the
Very true,
same
very
people.
true. Because
Yeah,
here's the thing,
so-
I was like, I thought that was very much like a not like a out of place thing, but I was like, oh, okay, this is they focused on this
Yeah.
for like a bit. So
I think more so just because the showrunner Mohammed Diab, his goal in this was to portray Egyptian culture and just in a positive light. I think he's Egyptian himself, so like there was that personal, I think, mission to portray it in a positive light, have like Egyptian like superhero role models. So I think that's what that whole scene was about.
Okay.
But let's talk about let's work with the I think we spoke a little bit about the giant kaiju battle and Khonshu versus Ahmet for the most part. I thought it looked good. I thought it was also like meant to be symbolic of like while Harrow and Moon Knight are fighting their avatars, their respective avatars, they are also fighting amongst themselves.
oh yeah,
and,
because
like,
they did some of those shots that were really perfect, where it was like
Yeah,
from the
where-
ground up.
where Moon
you
Knight is
see
on the
them.
ground and Harrow's walking towards him and you see Ahmet like taking down Khonshu himself. It was like kind of cool
You're
symmetry
like,
going on.
dang.
And then also like the fact that you literally get to see gods battle. Like they are battling physically, but also with like, their own ideas of ideology.
Yeah, we got World Star.
Moon Knight versus Harrow, though, that whole action sequence of where I mean, I've
we
got
talk
it,
about the
I've got here's a soundbite right here. I mean, our boy Steven
I'm really jazzed about showing you these new skill sets we
New
have.
skill sets.
seeing actually,
See them fly. How about seeing Moon Knight fly all the way?
which means I gotta go back real quick before we go into the action scenes. Rewind back to the negotiate. We gotta slow down real quick. We're going all over the
We're
place.
so excited.
But rewind back to the renegotiation scene. The Khonshu waiting for Moon Knight. First of all, once again, we get to see another awesome sequence of Moon Knight donning his costume, like him coming out of the water and the bullets coming out of his chest and the way they fall. One, I was like, ooh, 50 Cent, 50
Get
Cent
rich or die trying.
album intro. But once again, we get to hear Khonshu give us a like a very quick version of his speech in the previous episode. But we get to hear Khonshu just like
Rise again.
Rise and live again.
love that, man. Like it's just that was another, like for me, I just got so hyped when I seen
Oh,
that.
dude, but when Steven does
put-
it, where he does
he
the
fixes his cuffs
oh,
or
and then it's
sleeves.
just like,
The way his suit comes on, I mean, I feel like they took. I wonder how much influence, if Spawn influences them at all, because for some reason it gives me like kind of a Spawn vibe, especially of like how the
It
suit
wraps
is
around
essentially is alive, right? But that scene right there was so badass. His suit looks so good, and anytime that you get to see it in daylight, like I think you really get to enjoy the details.
the
but-
detail, yeah, because especially like his pants. His pants has like all the hieroglyphics like
Yeah.
on the leg, and I'm just like, ooh, that's a nice little touch
Yeah.
right there.
So the interesting part about this is that I guess, the fact that Moon Knight or Mark dies, he kind of has to renegotiate his contract with Khonshu, right? Like, and he gets to get, well, maybe not so much renegotiate as much as restructure the terms, since he accepts Steven as a part of the package, right? I think he says like, hey, we're a package deal. And if I'm not mistaken, I guess in that moment with Steven agreeing to also become an avatar as long as he gets freed by the end, am I to believe that, and are you on the same page, that Steven gets granted Khonshu's blessings and powers, and that's why he's such a badass in the fight?
Yeah, because yes, because I think Steven realizes he's like, oh, I'm just as much as Mark is as Mark.
Yeah.
And the fact that he said, hey, now we're together, we're a package deal. Obviously, it's
It's a
two for one.
deal. Yeah, 2-in-1 deal. But yeah, you're right. When Khonshu, first of all, like if you pay attention, Khonshu has to make it nighttime, right? He has to shift the night sky in order for Moon Knight to fly, which I thought was cool. That Moon Knight's powers really get enhanced, and you see the full spectrum when it's like the moon is out when it's nighttime.
And the way they do his cape, because like
man.
in comic books, his cape, like a lot of like Greg Smallwood, as well as who else am I thinking of? There's Smallwood, and then who did the
Declan Shelby.
Declan Shelby. The way that they did a lot of their scenes with the cape and how he's flying and the way that it makes that crescent moon,
Yeah,
they basically
looked
was
good.
like, hey, listen,
and it's like he got some mileage on it too.
I was like Doctor Strange's cape looking like Doctor Strange cape looking like, yo, my cape can do that so good.
Yeah, do a shape for me, man. Do a shape for me. Yeah, that was cool. But I enjoyed watching Steven's new confidence and powers. I thought he went to town with his batons.
Oh, when
And-
he was just, yeah, I would hate to get hit in the face with
The
one of those.
choreography was cool, and it was like it was just high octane. It was high octane fight. I love saying that, even though it's a corny phrase. It was high octane fun to see them like swap in and out.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that kind of them playing around with like suddenly it's Moon Knight, then it's Steven, and them like both kind of doing like combo moves.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, damn, I'm watching the Marvel Alliance video game in action right now.
Oh yeah, for real. Like you used to hate when guys would jump in between, where it's like the L2 or R2 assist, where people are just coming
Yeah,
in. Like you're like,
damn
"Dang,
it, yeah.
stop hitting me.
Harrow
there-
put up a pretty decent fight.
Did
too.
you like that scene where he first shows up and they're running down the pyramid?
Oh,
like
man,
and
it-
and Moon Knight gives him a straight knee to
knee
the
to the
face.
chin, boy?
Knee to the face.
Yeah. Harrow put up a much better fight than I was anticipating, because you don't really see him like
Oh
brawl.
man, he learned all of his moves from Denzel Washington. And
Training
yeah, I love when he's wearing that Denzel Washington outfit. Like he's just wearing that shirt. Like, all right, he's like, I learned this from my
Yeah.
old master.
So not only you get to see Mark and Steven kind of do some cool choreography, but also Mark and Layla teaming up like it's
yeah.
nothing, like very seamless.
I like how Steven had to like come up from his subconscious and be like, wow, you look amazing.
Yeah,
Because like Mark is like, wow, babe, what's up? And then Steven just like,
yeah, their embrace.
What are you
Mark and
waiting-
Layla's embrace for that minute was like really sweet, because in that moment it's like, wow, we're sharing this together. You know,
and
like,
I caught Lila giving Steve a little bit of a smile too. Like I caught that smile. He's like, wow, you look great.
look,
and she was
look,
like, oh,
the 2-for-1 package deal isn't just for Khonshu, baby.
it's a package deal.
Even for Layla, she gets to enjoy those benefits too. All right. So overall action sequence, I thought was a lot of fun. Sounds like you're on the same page. Now let's talk about that twist in the middle of what seemed like a very dire moment for Mark. Layla is pinned down thanks to one of Mark's own
Moonarangs.
Moonarangs. She's getting. By the way, I thought it was really funny when they pan to her and she's, she got one wing stuck and she's using her other wing to block the guy.
Machine gun.
That dude looked like he was just playing around. Like, oh, I just want to see how much he can block. It's like, yo, you're not gonna shoot for her legs or something.
Nah.
But it seemed like a very dire moment of, Ahmed is taking Khonshu down. Harrow literally has Mark pinned down as well. And then all of a sudden we get that blackout sequence. And next thing you
And I
know,
like the way they do it.
it's very like,
And the sound effects, like.
yeah, real jarring. Like, yeah, like it kind of feels like you're blacking out. Like I can't say I've blacked out. At least I guess that's the whole point of blacking out. You don't really remember. I don't remember if I've ever blacked out, but I would feel like that would be exactly what it feels like. Like you just like it's almost like watching a seizure happen. More so like those audio cues and then like how the screen blacks in and out. But when that happened, I was like, oh no way. I was like, oh, we're gonna see Jake. We're going to see Jake. And then we don't necessarily see Jake. We just see the aftermath.
We just see him over Harrow's body.
No, he's exactly that, but more so, and to get more gruesome with it, he is pulling an axe, his own axe, out of his forehead, and everyone is fucked up. And Layla's looking at him like,
what did I just see?
yeah, like,
she was in horror.
She got to. I wonder what she saw. And I feel a little cheated out of that. Now, I granted, like I think had you shown that actually play out, it might have taken a little bit of the surprise at the end. So I get why they wouldn't show it, like to kind of keep you on your toes and guessing, but it just felt so jarring, and I guess my curiosity is just like, what did she see? And maybe that's the point, because you leave thinking like you just see the aftermath, and yeah, you could look at it like, yeah, they kind of like cheated me out of that. It feels a little cheap, but like you kind of get the point. Like Jake's a badass. Like you didn't really need to see. You just know that at the end of it, he took down everybody.
Yeah, and then it's funny because throughout the entire season, he does have like blackouts, and you think it's either Steve or Mark, or then for a while we thought it was Khonshu. Like we were like, oh, maybe Khonshu's
for the record, I do want to say I had a lot of bad third personality texts. I think at one point I said it might have been Khonshu himself. In a way, it's kind of because Khonshu controls Jake. But I did mention that in episode 1, where Steven is in that town and he kind of has that blackout, and everyone's like, like beaten up and bloodied. I had an assumption that that might have been Jake, because Jake is just he would of course be the most violent one. But the fact that we saw just how powerful Jake is in this moment, like Jake took down Harrow and his whole gang by himself.
Can we talk about the fact that Mark is a mercenary? This dude gets paid to like do mercenary stuff, and there's a darker side to that where Jake's like, oh no, like I'm the real
that's
threat.
light work. That's light work. That is light work.
Jake.
Yeah. All right. So after that happens, we get into the next scene, which is Mark and Layla taking Harrow back to the pyramid to be binded to Ahmet. Mark disobeys Khonshu. He escapes, and then we get the whole mental asylum world or pocket dimension. He escapes that, leaving Harrow trapped there. He wakes up in the apartment, tied to his bed, and then we get the end credits. Let's take a.
Well, yeah, he's about to. Well, that scene was very beautifully done. Like they binded. Ahmet.
Just 2 of them too. I was like, wow, they only acquired 2 avatars. Well, I guess at the end of the day, it's like this is all we got. It's me and Layla. We're gonna bind them together.
So they bind Ahmet to Harrow, and then like he's about to kill him. Yeah. And he's just like.
At the end of the day, it was like.
I like when Layla's like, you do have a choice.
Yeah, and it's a callback too, because it's like, can Khonshu really be upset at that when that was kind of the crux of his argument with Ahmet. It's all about a choice. Like you are prejudging everyone. I wait until they make that choice, because to him, like, the choice is the important part. Did you choose to do evil, to be evil? Well, then that's where my judgment comes into play. And really, Mark is just giving him a piece of his own, like, a taste of his own medicine. At the end of the day, I'm going to choose
non-violence,
whether this person deserves it or not. Because let's be real, at the end of the day, I was a little bit like, I mean, Harrow's done a shit ton of fucked up stuff, Yeah. And let's be real, it's not like Ahmet's gonna have a change of heart. Harrow might, but Ahmet might not, and she's definitely going to kill again. Yeah. So in my head, I was like, Mark, I kind of, I can see Khonshu's point.
Yeah, Khonshu's like, she's too dangerous. You're like, yeah, but we don't know.
And he's like, you know what? I think I'm going to choose this very inopportune moment to make to get my freedom back. But I think it gets, it's supposed to be very powerful, and it was. Mark gets to end his contract under his own terms without like getting his hands even more. Because you got to remember, he
He
just
signed with a major label.
yeah, he did. You know what? He quit a major label to go independent.
Yeah.
Yeah, he left the majors, bro. You know, where was I getting at again? Because you got to keep in. I'm sorry. I think the another level to that is that Mark has just been reborn, and I doubt the first thing he wants to do with this new chance at life is to bloody his hands even further.
Mhm.
You know, like this is a fresh start for him to be able to pick his own like destiny. And I did find it a little weird that Contra was like, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
He's Azure, and then just disappears. Does his cool little like
Disappear.
Ant-Man. He does the little Ant-Man thing.
what did you? Okay, so that happens. Did we talk about? Okay, how did you? How did you? I guess take in or translate this scene. I'm sorry. How do you? What is the question I'm thinking of? How did you interpret that scene of Mark, Steven, and Harrow in the asylum in that like mental scape?
Oh,
Like,
okay. So I think I've said before that I think that when they're in that asylum part, they're in his head. That's like how they compartmentalize.
mhm.
I think all that's in his head.
Their organizing principle.
It's organizing principle. So all that stuff is just in his head. And that's how I'm taking it. It's one of those where they realize they're not crazy,
mm-hmm.
and it's very much. I really,
I think that one's got a lot of room for interpretation. So I wouldn't say any like there's a right or wrong answer.
Mhm.
I would think. My thoughts was that in that moment, like that was the vehicle for like that was Mark's organizing principle for him to try to make sense, and it took him up to this point to finally feel confident and like to make sense of it in his own way. But and Harrow that whole time thought he understood his role, but or Harrow I think felt confident the whole time. And now it's kind of reversed, where it's like Mark has kind of come to grips with what he needed to be balanced and feel whole. So he doesn't need to have an organizing principle anymore.
Mhm.
But now Harrow is trapped in that. And then I think it has something to do with the fact that maybe Ahmet being binded him like is the final push, like the final breaking point for him. So, and we kind of see that in the end where he's in the asylum and he seems kind of like out of
Loopy.
it too.
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, the dude just the dude had a fucking axe, in his head. So you know what I mean. So, but I thought it was funny when they noticed the bloody feet because I think me and you made a joke of like, imagine walking behind Harold all the time. You're like, oh god, he's bleeding out his
He's
feet
like, what
again.
is that sound? It's like the jingling of the glass.
So I would be curious for anyone listening if you guys have a better explanation or how you interpreted that final scene in the asylum between Mark, Steven, and Hera. I would be curious if you got some good thoughts.
Yeah, because he says he's like, we're not crazy. He's like, I think that's one of the consensus I got when they're both saying, nah, we're not crazy. Like, what
Yeah,
if
we get it.
He's like, what if we don't believe in that?
Yeah. Because I mean, Hero in the last episode was talking about perception, right? Like it's all about how you perceive and whatnot. And finally, for Mark and Steven, it's like, you know what? Now we believe it. Like we've lived it, we believe it. And now it's up to Harrow to figure out, his ordeal. He's kind of like the one having to have an organizing principle. But what was your immediate reaction? Take me back to you watching for the first time. What was your immediate reaction when that scene ends? Mark and Steven wake up in the bed, of course. They're still tied up.
There's two goldfishes.
Yeah, which the way I looked at that scene was that they still have unfinished business in the sense of like the reason why Steven, because season one, I'm sorry, it's a callback to episode 1, right? Episode 1, we see that was the whole opening sequence. Steven waking up.
Every time I wake up.
Which I love that song. I can't get it out of my head. It calls back to episode 1 that Steven is doing all of these activities. He's got himself chained up because he knows that he sleepwalks, that he, is doing things that he has no recollection about. And for them to bring it back in episode 6, I thought was a cool callback because it tells you that like, are they finally addressing the fact that something else is in them? Like, are they both like, okay, we got to figure this out together, or is it like Jake doing that? I think that ending left a lot to be interpreted. What did you think?
Oh, about like it's like why are they chaining themselves back to the bed? Like what are they afraid of or what's going on? I was trying to understand that too. I thought like the whole them chaining themselves to the bed was kind of weird because I thought they've already established that they're gonna work together, and the fact that they are no longer in contra, like why would you need to chain yourself up?
And they didn't address anything with Layla, which I thought was a little weird that they didn't even Layla wasn't there at the end, right?
Mhm.
Like they never really addressed where she went, what became of her until Red. So I have this, and this might be a reach, but I feel like the end of this episode is open to a lot of different interpretations. So my thoughts is, what if maybe none of that literally happened, and that this, much like how this episode has taken place in a literal sense, but also in like that asylum and in mental scapes and like different planes of reality and conscious. What if you've got the literal ending in the physical world where Layla and Mark have stopped Harrow, but in the astral sense or like the self conscious sense, Mark and Steven, that never really transpired. And what we see in the bed scene is Mark and Steven now working together, and this is them still like living the normal day by day that Steven had. I don't think I said that exactly how I wanted to, but it's around that lines of like we got two endings. We got a literal sense ending, and then also like the ending of that never really happened, and this has all been in Mark's head, and this is him like coming
Choose your
to
own
grips.
ending.
Yeah, coming to grips. Now, my question to you is: take yourself back to the when you first watched this episode. What was your immediate reaction when you started to see the end credits? Like, I'm sure that you knew, okay, there's an end credit scene coming up, but how did you feel about that first ending?
The first ending, oh, I was like, wow. I was just like, I just said, wow. I was like, we're just gonna. They did everything they needed to do, and it's like, in my head, I'm like, we're definitely gonna get a season 2. So it's like, I don't need anything more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Did you feel a little? I mean, like, be honest. Did you feel a little cheated or confused as to like, wow, that's like for me? I did have a moment of like, wow, that's it. Like, damn, ballsy. Y'all just gonna go out like that?
for like a split second, in the sense of like, but it's like, how are you supposed to end this? It was one of the things we were talking about. Like, how are you going to tie everything up in a nice little bow and then leave everybody satisfied? So at that point, I was like, all right, I don't need any more. I'm okay with it.
Okay, that's fair. I will admit, I think this show would have benefited from maybe being an 8 episode series because there's just a lot of emotional things to work through, and they could. I think this episode could have been 2. Like the end of this, like episode 7, like the end of it could have been the return, having a dramatic return of Mark coming back to life, like having after. Like you could have stretched out his time in the field of reeds, maybe went into like his past a little more, maybe even set up Jake in some point
Yeah,
there.
but that just takes away from all
I know,
the
I know.
anxiety of like what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I think they really banked on that last bonus scene, that end credit scene being like I think they banked a
Because, like,
lot
I
on
don't know
that.
how long that scene was, but that scene gave us.
It couldn't have been
so
more than
mu-
5 minutes.
5 minutes. That
Couldn't
whole-
have been more than 5
I
minutes.
think it was probably like a minute and 30 seconds
It
or
was pretty
something
quick.
like that.
It's
I was
not-
just like, yo, that last scene gave us so much information and narrative.
Like I said, I think it gives you. It fills in some plot holes, but it gives. I think it leaves you with a lot of questions too. At least for me, I'm like, the few questions I've already brought up, but I think they were banking a lot on like, look, we are going to take a risk in not showing how this. We're not going to set up another show. We're not going to bring in a cameo. We are going to bank on the fact that we can make Jake Lockley. We're going to bank on the fact that like his appearance is going to be a big deal. We're not going to rely on another superhero or another plot point. Let's go ahead and take something that part of the
Mythos.
the canon, right? Let's take a part of the Moon Knight's canon and lore and make that the punchline. And I think it was great, man. It was like
And that's for like that was for like the
It was
Moon
worth
Knight
it.
fans. Like that's for the
Yeah.
Moon Knight fans that know about.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, listen, I've been a Moon Knight fan since Werewolf by Night.
yeah, it was for the Moon Knight fans, and I think fans that ended up learning. Oh, he's got a third personality, and have been asking, well, where's the third personality? Where's Jake? Where's
Because they
Jake?
established that with the third sarcophagus, and you're trying to figure out like, why is it so
Yeah.
red?
Yeah, it's like we're not. It's like we're gonna show you, but we'll never even make mention it. We're gonna do little winks, and nudges, and it almost played you out. They threw you for a loop, but
Because
yeah.
you were like, yeah, because for the end credit scene, we knew that it was, but I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought like a character would show up, or like, well, I mean, a character did show up, but
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be one of those like tying Marvel type
Yep.
characters, like we would see
Yeah.
like a Hawkeye type character, or Yelena like coming in and doing what she does.
But just spending a little bit of time on that scene itself, just the way it played out felt like a gangster movie. It felt like Godfather or something.
Oh yeah,
Like him wheeling him out,
Kicking the
nice and calm
wheelchair.
and smooth. I thought that was funny. All white. I forgot what type of car was that? Like Rolls
All
Royce.
white. It was
Like
all
a
white. Yeah,
limo
Rolls-Royce.
Rolls Royce, like long. Khonshu in the suit
Already waiting. Like
and looking, and I think he even cracks his neck. Like
Yeah.
that, he was so menacing. Like he has been waiting for this moment, and the fact that he's got Mark and Steven's old punk ass out in the picture,
Yeah.
he can really enjoy it.
I love it. Because as soon as Harrow sees him, or Ahmet, we'll say Ahmet, when Ahmet sees him, you can't do anything to us.
Oh yeah,
Kanju.
yeah.
And then the Kanju just looking at
Did
him.
you see Harrow while Khonshu's giving a speech? Harrow like kind of like pantomimes like they're talking. He's like, yep, yep,
Yo,
yep,
If
yep.
somebody's knocking on a window,
Bro,
a window knock.
no. If I'm in a limo and someone knocks on a window and
"Oh, I'm
the
about to-"
driver window, I'm saying prayers. I'm
Like,
asking for forgiveness. That was executed so well.
I saw what you
And
did there.
Steven was
Executed well.
Steven was so scary. So I've never heard Spanish said so.
Yo, and here's the thing: he speaks Spanish in the finish. He's like they're like, "Oh, it's time to go," and then I
Yeah,
forget what he says.
He tells her, "Calm down, lady," or something like,
He's
"I'll take him."
Kamata, I got her.
I'll take him. You calm down.
Yeah.
Now,
And he's just
I've got some-
wheeling him.
you know, I've got some thoughts on in the silencer too. The silencer, pew 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 pew.
In front of everybody.
Well, I mean, you know those windows
Those
are
are
100% black.
They're
tint.
blacked out, but there's like a quick flash. You can see the flash in it.
Would you ask a question? Have you seen it? I'd probably pretend like it never
And
happened.
I'm like, nope.
I'm not walking up to that.
I think they're taking pictures.
License plate too, a customized license plate. Sienkiewicz shout out on the hospital too. I'm glad that they gave Bill Sienkiewicz a little Easter egg. But now, you know, the fun of this show is the reaching and coming up with these theories. And I've got a thought as far as Jake goes, because he speaks Spanish, and you're not really led to believe that. Well, I don't think you see Mark or Steven speak another language, if I'm not mistaken. I think maybe Arabic at some point, but I don't think you see. No, that's more so Layla. But I don't.
That's what I'm saying. So Mark is American.
Well-
Steven is British.
Yep. But Mark's mom, I believe, is Spanish. I believe she is. I believe she is Spanish, which might explain like, which might tie
why he's a
into-
straight killer.
Why? Well, all right. Well, think about it. Mark creates Steven to represent, like, you know, the good side of him, right? Like he's supposed to be this carefree, happy person that like
Loving
has
memories.
that has all the best memories of himself. It would make sense that there would be the yang side, the yin and yang of it, right? Like there would be another personality who would be Jake, who would represent maybe everything that his mom told him he was, right? Like like Jake represents the violent, like piece of shit side that
Killed his brother.
That killed his brother, right? So like Jake is everything that his mom said Mark was.
Yeah.
You know, you purposely killed him. You're a bad person. So I think, you know, he takes
You know,
in,
ever since he was born, you just didn't like
you know,
him.
like powers have words, right?
Yeah.
Like I think he takes that and he creates Jake to like balance, right?
But he
This show's
probably
all
doesn't
about
even
balance,
create
right?
Jake probably creates himself.
Yeah, like he subconsciously kind of, you
like
know,
just
the fact that
manifests.
Ste-
Like
yeah.
he just manifests out of that stuff. Like, cause you need, like, you know, I don't know. Like I've gotten my ass a shit for ass whippings, and I've never been able to like manifest it. Like I'm in a field of reeds when I'm getting the shit kicked out of me.
Jake
It's like, wait till your dad gets home, cause he's next.
Jake represents that that fleeting thought that you have when you know your parents, like you gotta, like, you know, when your parents just got on your nerves, or you got a really bad ass whooping and you're like, ooh, like, you know, one day I wish you got, you know, like that fleeting moment of just hating your parents.
And did you know, like, Jake's face is like hard, just like it's hard. Like
His face,
it's like
his-
tense.
Yeah,
He's like dum 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 dum. And
he
you're
looked like,
oh,
he looked
shit.
like the Joker, bro.
100%. And like, yo, I thought it was really funny that he's like, yo, I don't need no suit. Like Jake
No.
don't need no suit.
No. All I need is cabbie hat, cool little jacket.
And that, I'm not gonna lie, that was a dope fit. Like
No,
that
his
fit was
clean
sick.
fit.
That was a clean.
You can rock
fit.
it during the fall.
Oh yeah.
All right. With that being said, that does bring us to the end of the episode, which is a good jumping on point to this next part. Like I said in the beginning, we had some listener emails and questions sent, and I want to share that. This one being very relevant, considering we're at the end of the episode, and it deals more so with where we might see Moon Knight next. It comes from our pal Logan Zawaki. He sent me an article about the showrunner of Moon Knight, Mohammed Diab, cutting out two planned Marvel MCU crossovers. Apparently, there was a crossover planned in the very first scene, and the one for the end. He goes on to say, quote, But as the story developed and we kept changing the scripts, we felt like we don't need that, end quote. And the full article, by the way, and quote, does mention that they had the freedom to place that MCU cameo wherever they wanted. But ultimately, it was like a group decision that they came to that, hey, we're not going to go for
Like
cameo.
it doesn't add to the story, it doesn't take away from the story. It probably just enhances the story more because you're not sitting there talking about all the other stuff. You're just trying to be focused on what's going on.
Which brings me to this other quote I want to share per the showrunner Mohammed Diab. He says, quote, it's a rule. There has to be a scene at the end. No, I'm sorry. He says, I kept thinking it's a rule. There has to be a scene at the end that connects us to the MCU, but I think they decided, you know what? The surprise is that there isn't. And what's going to make the show unique is it doesn't need anything else, end quote. The best compliment, not end quote, but the best compliment we get on the show is when people tell us this doesn't feel like a Marvel show. It feels like a standalone show that feels more dramatic, more dark, and grounded. I feel like we succeeded in bringing Marvel more to our corner. So proud and happy about that, end quote. And I think that exemplifies it well. This show stands out on its own and nails it too. You know, like I think everyone has come to assume that all of these shows should be connected. And I mean, and for good reasons, right? Like literally everything is
Marvel Studios thing on top. That's why.
much,
Yeah.
they've gone out of their way to make that their kind of like MO. So for this show to stand out on its own, I still feel like be just as entertaining and get their point across. And it's cool to see that like, you know, he got to tell his story without feeling that pressure. It's like the fact that he felt empowered to like, hey, this is what we normally do, but you know, do what's best for you. And the fact that the rest of the crew, like,
Yeah, like Disney was so cool about it, or whoever was cool about it, because you'd probably think that they're like, you know, you hear a lot of like people just walk away from like creative
Yeah,
differences. So
'cause
you're
they
like,
don't
you're
get
like,
that power or
yeah,
control.
and it's just like Disney's like, it's okay, we don't have to.
I wonder if at this point it's a lot easier because it's like, look, we already had Endgame, you know, like we've already done it, and if it means, you know, that you don't going forward that this doesn't connect, but we get a good story, then go with it. I think that might be it. But how likely is it that maybe they hire Jake Lockley to be like, Mohammed, you're gonna go on this article and this interview, and you're gonna tell them that we were okay without the connection.
We planned it.
Yeah. But Logan's question in regard to that article was, if you had to guess, what were the crossovers? So who do you think would have been, or who were they considering to possibly be cameos in the show?
If I had to guess,
Yeah.
How many characters?
No, they said there was two. There's supposed to be two planned crossovers.
I would
cameos.
honestly say Blade.
Same. That was
I
on
would
mine.
like I would think Blade is one of them, and then not Doctor Strange. Who's over on that other side? Like who would be? Who would be there?
I read some, or I'd seen some rumors or some speculations that
Like Carter?
Mark Ruffalo, who plays the Hulk, was seen with Oscar Isaac during one of like their filming days. And if you consider that the Hulk for the most part is, you know, it's related, right? Like you got Bruce Banner and then you got the Hulk side. You know, like they have that in common.
Okay.
So I wonder if they would.
But
have
he
played,
would still be like Smart Hulk, right?
I
Because at no
assume so.
point he never goes back to
Yeah, yeah, I'd
to
assume so.
Bruce. Okay. I'm
But-
okay. I'm okay with him. Like
Yeah,
yo,
we
you
already-
know how I feel. Like,
I
I'm
think
not-
we've talked
I'm
about
totally
that.
okay
Yeah.
with Mark Ruffalo not showing up.
Fair enough. So I would have also assumed Blade, only because, you know, if they're building, a lot of people have talked about Marvel building towards like this Midnight Sun story, right? Like they've already casted and semi introduced Blade. We're getting Black Knight, the Black Knight,
The Black Knight
the Black Knight.
from Eternals.
Yeah, Eternals, right?
Yeah, what's his name?
Damn.
Josh. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Black Knight. We're getting a show
Oh,
with the Ebony Blade, right?
yeah, and I cannot believe I'm drawing a big fucking brain fart like this. Yeah, the Black Knight. Okay.
Okay.
So they've introduced, they've already casted and in a way introduced Blade. They've introduced Black Knight.
Which he's
And then now you got Moon Knight. Like you've already got some of the elements for the Midnight Suns. So I think Blade is just like it's like a easy speculation. But the other one that I'd say, and I'd probably lean more close to, is maybe we would have got some sort of hint towards the Werewolf by Night, aka Jack Russell from the comic books, because
yeah, because I thought that he was going to show up for sure.
yeah, so there's the connection of, you know, in the comic books, Moon Knight makes his first appearance in Werewolf by Night. He was like one of his earliest kind of like adversaries, and they've bumped heads a few times. But in in the literal sense, last November, they the werewolf. There's a Werewolf by Night Halloween special. There's a Marvel Studio, sorry, Halloween special coming out. I don't think this year. I don't know when, but there's a Halloween special being planned, and they're thinking that it might be centered. There's reports that it might be centered around Werewolf by Night. They casted this actor, Gael Garcia Bernal. He's played in movies like Old and Mozart in the Jungle. He's been cast in that werewolf. He's been cast. It was cast as the central werewolf in the Halloween special. Though sources remain unclear about whether he'll actually play Werewolf by Night. Chances are probably. So, I think if that was one of the cameos, it would make sense, right? Like there's the association with him in the comic books between Moon Knight and Werewolf
And that's
by
a
Night.
deep cut.
Exactly, and it kind of deals with the whole, and it's the fucking moon, right? It's like it would make sense in a lot of ways. I just think Werewolf by Night would have made a lot of sense. So that's one of my other guesses. I think either they were thinking about putting Blade in this in the season finale episode, and maybe a Werewolf by Night cameo. So thank you for submitting that and asking that, Logan. Be curious about your thoughts on who those two cameos might have been. And since we're on the kind of topic and wrapping up with fan mail and folks reaching out, I want to share this email that we got from our boy T-Mix. Take sweet water. All right. And it's all about the Moon Knight series. We asked for emails and responses last week, so we got one from our boy T-Mix. His email is titled Moon Knight Finale. He writes, "Yo, what up, elite boys? It's been a fun journey to recap, rewatch the episodes with you guys. You guys give such great insight for us Moon Knight noobs that aren't as knowledgeable about the character. Thanks, guys. The last two episodes were my favorite as they really dive into the psyche of Mark and Steven, and we get the payoff of them fully acknowledging each other and really working together. It was great seeing Steven kick ass. I haven't yet read Jeff Lemire's run, so those two episodes give me Immortal Hulk vibes when Joe Fixit and Child Hulk are looking for Bruce in hell. Layla's upgrade of Tarwet's avatar was badass too. Not gonna lie though, as the credits rolled, I did feel like the ending did feel like a bummer. But after the credit scenes, dude, I'm sure Drew was hype.
Oh yeah.
All right, gents, it's been great. And of course, he signs off with Hasta la próxima, mis amigos. T-Mix, thank you so much for those kind words, brother. Yeah, I can, and that's, I just brought up Mark Ruffalo, being a potential cameo, that was supposed to be a potential cameo. T-Mix brings up that it reminded him of the Immortal Hulk comic book. I mean, come on. Characters with split personalities having to deal with all that. Yeah, it makes sense. I think there's a lot of synergy
Hulk
between
has
that.
like 10 personalities.
Yeah. And last but not least, I want to give a shout out to some other listeners who reached out and just shared some love about these recent Moon Knight recap episodes. A big shout out to Hydraberg, who gave us some praise. He said he'd give our series, our review series, full moon, 8 out of 8 lunar phases.
Good.
So thank you, Hydraberg. And then shout out to Henry Hernandez out of Puerto Rico. He reached out, said he loved the show and whatnot.
Hell yeah.
Shout outs to those two. And with that being said, Drew, you know what time it is. One last time, brother. One last time. Let's go ahead. Give me your closing remarks about this episode and give me the official rating. Give me your rating for this episode. 8 out of 8. Out of 8 lunar phases, what are you giving in this episode?
This is,
give me your last
okay.
thoughts. And I actually have,
So you want
because we've been fucking up the lunar phases, so I actually have them written down.
I will give this. Okay. I would say this episode did everything it needed to do, and in less the allotted time that we wanted it. Like, you wanted 50 minutes, but we didn't need 50 minutes.
True.
You got the 40-minute. We paid attention. I give this a, was it waning crescent?
A waning crescent.
A waning crescent.
It doesn't sound nearly as good as a full moon.
Yeah, full moon. I was like, yeah, full moon is at 5/8. 5/8 is a full moon?
The full moon is the 5th phase of.
Oh God! All right,
that's
I want a
terrible.
waning.
Fuck it.
A waning.
A full
crescent,
moon
a
is an
full
8 out of
moon.
8 in this world.
Full moon, 8 out of 8.
in our universe, a full moon is 8 out
Because
of 8.
this episode was fun. It got everything. I was excited. Like
Yeah.
Layla was a badass. I screamed a lot. There was very much twist. I didn't know how it was gonna end, and it still ended. And then on top of that, it's like, all right, well, this is the real ending.
Yeah.
It was just like this. Pa pa pa.
Yeah. To me, I think I'm right there with you. I'll give this. Maybe not
Compared
exactly.
to the other Netflix, here, compared to like Hawkeye, like we saw Hawkeye, that was like a really cool. But that end fight scene in
is
Hawkeye
like,
where King Bean shows up and it's like all like I was like, okay,
I think this
is
was one of the best best endings to MCU show, and some of the better ones that come to mind. I think Loki ended awesome because you
Perfectly.
got like Kang. You know, it was like a big surprise. I want to say, what if wasn't too bad at all? The ending? No, what if finale was really good. WandaVision was decent. Was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think we got a lot of CGI in that one. But anyways, long story short, I would give this a 7 out of 8. So that'd be a third quarter moon
Third quarter
in
moon.
my world here. But I think they gambled. And is it really it's not really a gamble, I would say, but in the world of MCU and knowing that like you have certain expectations and they've set certain precedents, this was a gamble in the sense that they didn't do any cameos. They also like subverted your expectations of waiting to the last minute to show you a character that is integral to the story. So they made it like their own, right? Like they made Moon Knight their own, and they told such a beautiful story, man, of a man like coming to grips with his life and dealing with like this mental illness and seeing how it impacts everything in his life. I thought was like I don't know. I learned a lot, and I leave this show with like a new perspective on certain things. Like even like the philosophical debate between like Harrow and Mark. Like even though it was a played out thing, right? Like if you've ever watched Minority Report or any of those movies, you've seen that play out. But it was
It
cool.
was like, yo, if you can stop Hitler
Yeah,
from being Hitler,
yeah.
like, what would you do?
I thought it was still fresh. I thought they told it in a fresh way. A lot of action, great CGI. This episode was just to me like it was nonstop. There was a lot of nonstop. They were like, look, we got 40 minutes. Let's just go. Let's just put the fucking pedal to the floor and go. And they nailed it. The only things I would give it some slack for is that I do wish it was a little longer. I think it could have benefited from maybe having one other episode, and the fact that they left some things a little unclear, I think are the only things that would stop me from giving it a perfect score. But that's not to say a 7 out of 8 ain't fantastic.
Nah.
So, anyways, listeners, if you've got a different score that you want to share, we'd love to hear.
Especially if you
hear
just hated it. If you hated it, please let us know.
yeah, I would be curious. Like,
yeah,
if it
if
just
you're like,
rubbed
yo,
you
this
the
was
wrong
the
way.
worst show ever, like, let us know, right?
Yeah, but
Send us a
regardless,
live video.
regardless, send us like send us a cameo.
Yeah.
Regardless, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching Moon Knight with us and allowing us to share our best speculations, our worst takes, some terrible hot takes sometimes.
Oh.
Regardless, it was a lot of fun. These episodes are very labor intensive when you consider, like, especially when we drop 2 episodes, this could be a lot of added work, but such a fun series. And Drew, it was a fucking blast to do it with you, man.
I'm so excited to be here.
Well, there you have it, Shortbox Nation. Thank you for hanging out with us this week, but it's time to close out the show. And if you're still in the mood for more Shortbox content after this one, or you just want to hear a discussion about the latest comic news and developments in comic culture, check out the other episode we dropped today alongside this one. It's called Shortbox News, and it's dedicated to covering broader and relevant comic news that we feel deserves your attention. Listen to that wherever you get your podcast. And if that's still not enough for you and you just want more bonus episodes to enjoy, or simply want to hear all of our episodes the second we post them before anyone else, consider becoming a Patreon subscriber and avoid having to wait a whole week to hear from us. Sign up for our Patreon using the link in this episode's show notes, or go to patreon.com/theshortbox and support the podcast for as little as $1. We'd appreciate it. In the meantime, give us a follow on social media if you aren't part of the bandwagon already. But most importantly, take care of yourselves, have a great day, and please continue to make mine and yours Shortbox. We'll talk to you soon. Peace. I was going to say we should do some Doctor Strange, but kind of tired.